Let's hear it for the home team. We are so lucky, are we not? Yeah, thank you. So one of the songs that they're going to sing coming out of the talk is Change Your Mind by Sister Hazel. How many of you know that song? It's one of my favorite songs, and one of the part of the lyric that I love is, if you want to be somebody else, change your mind. And it's kind of said in a fun and playful way. And the truth is that the best way to change your mind is through the use of the imagination, which is what we've been talking about this month. We've been talking about the imagination and the imaginal realm. And last week, I introduced you to the 4 levels of the imaginal realm, so I'm going to remind you of those. And the first is sensual. And last week, we did a whole meditation, visualization of tasting and smelling and hearing and seeing. And part of doing that is to kind of connect the neural pathways in our brains so that we're just more multi-dimensional, right? That we're able to access more of our abilities. The second level is physiological, which has to do with the shifting in your identity. The fourth is the mythic and the symbolic, which is looking at your life from a bigger picture. You know, that you're on a journey, that you have helpers, you know, to look at it from that perspective. And then the last, of course, is spiritual, being the Christ self. So today, where I want to go with this is to focus on the physiological level, which is the shift in your identity. So this goes beyond ego. So Jean Houston said it this way: it's one of the many selves that accompanies you that do not have your particular ego's history of doubt and distress. They're simply a pure, more open, available self within you. So what happens is, you know, we get stuck, right? We get stuck in our roles, we get stuck in our personas, we get stuck in our responsibilities, and we can become limited. And so when a problem arises, we may respond to it in the same way over and over and over again, right? Because we're kind of stuck in perceiving things in one way. But by learning to access different aspects of the self, then we become more multi-dimensional and better able to be creative with whatever comes in our lives. And that's why I think putting ourselves in different situations is healthy, because it keeps us from getting too stuck, right? So that's like being creative, going back to school, learning something that you never have thought you could do, or traveling. It's one of the reasons that I really like to travel, is because it throws me into a situation that sort of turns me upside down, and little things like, you know, where do you eat, or just tiny things become huge. And I find for me, it just sort of puts me in a different place. So tomorrow, I think I've shared before that I'm leaving for Denmark to meet my children. And because I've been on Ancestry.com and I found the town where the Lindvigs originated. However, I've done more research and I found out the town is actually another 90 miles past where we're going. So whatever, we're just gonna go to the town. My son is like, Mom, I am not spending the entire time in a train and a plane and a train and a plane. We are gonna stop wherever we are, so that's cool. And then I'm gonna take a train from Berlin to Braslav, which is right outside of Transylvania. So I'm going to go to a yoga retreat there, a detox yoga retreat. So we shall see. Detox retreat in Transylvania conjures up all kinds of pictures. So, and the truth is, we don't need a plane or a train or anything. We can go places with our imaginations. We don't have to leave this place because our imaginations can take us there. So last Sunday, one of our members came up to me and she told me all about her 13-year-old grandson, who's almost 14, and how he uses his imagination. And I have permission to tell the story, but I have to change his name to protect his privacy. Okay. But it's an amazing story. It's an amazing story, and we're going to call him Tom, okay? So there are 4 things that he loves and has loved really since he was little. He loves he loves cooking, he loves boats, he loves airplanes, and he loves space. So from the time he was 3, he was pretending to cook and had, an imaginary kitchen and watched documentaries on all of these subjects. And he has recreated the things that he likes. He's recreated a kitchen. He has recreated a cockpit of an airplane. He has recreated the bridge of a ship. I'm not sure about space, exactly what he's done, but he has all these things. And when you're 13, you're kind of starting to move away from that stuff, right? You're not really, when we're kids and using our imaginations, most of the time we're pretty into it when we're 7 or 8 or 9. You think about what you did. I used to line all my dolls up and talk to them, so go figure, This is another version of that, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, he has watched documentaries on these subjects, and he has spent hours pretending that he's on a ship or flying an airplane or traveling in space or cooking. He has one of the documentaries that he's watched over and over is about the Crystal Serenity cruise ship. Now, when we were talking about using the imagination over the last couple of weeks, the idea is that the more the imagination is used, right, we enter into the imaginal realm. And the imaginal realm is that place that's in between. It's before manifestation. It's afterthought, but before it manifests. And when we enter into the imaginal realm, things start to happen. Synchronicities, we meet the right people. Things start to line up and happen for us. So he has been spending all this time in his imaginary ship. He has a particular ship, obviously, the Crystal Serenity cruise ship. Well, guess what? A friend of the family started working for the ship and took him on a tour. And he got to go to the bridge. And this is what he said to his mother. He said, "Mom, I have pictured myself on that bridge of that ship for years, and then there I was, standing on the bridge of the ship." And then he said that now he has to find a way to build that specific bridge. He loves airplanes, so he has done the same thing. He has recreated a cockpit. He has watched documentaries. He has spent time in doing this. Well, guess what? A friend of theirs was working for Alaska Airlines and invited him to use the flight simulator. And he came in, used the flight simulator, and he landed the plane on the first try. They were amazed. And through a friend, I don't know if it's the same one, he was invited to fly in the cockpit of a 737 from SeaTac to Everett. It was a ferry, whatever that means, so it wasn't an official flight, right? So he got to do that. Again, imagination, imaginal realm, manifestation. And it's great that he has a family that supports him in this whole imagination. They took him to Nassau, where he got to go into mission control and talk to the mission director. And then finally, cooking. For Christmas, they got a tour of Salty's, the restaurant in West Seattle, a 4-hour tour. And he got to work in the kitchen for 4 hours. And for a half hour, he was in charge of the station. And the head and Chef Jeremy said to him later that we've been trying to teach a 21-year-old kid how to run the kitchen, and he doesn't get it. But Tom comes in, and he got it in 30 minutes. And he cooks. 13 years old. But he's had hours of cooking time under his belt. He's watched food documentaries since he was 3, and he has probably pictured himself doing all these different things countless times. Imagination, imaginal realm, manifestation. He knows how to use his imagination. Now, his mom said this, that he imagines to imagine, because he needs to see himself in these places. And I'm going to quote his mom directly. She said, "He's not busy trying to be like everybody else," which, when you're 13, 12, you're really trying to be like everybody else, right? He doesn't imagine to make these things happen. So when he's doing it, it's not like he's trying to manifest it. I think he imagines to get as close to the experience as he can while he's still too young to actually pursue them. I think to some extent we all have this ability in us, but with one big part of tapping into it is giving ourselves permission to slow down and let go of responsibilities and the to-dos so that we can let go and enjoy exploring what interests us for the sake of exploring what interests us. When is the last time you explored something that interested you just for the sake of it interesting you? You weren't going to get a certificate from it. You weren't going to get any accolades for it. You just pursued it because it interested you. She said, I believe part of that is having the courage to turn a deaf ear to all of the things we should be and caring less about what other people think of us. Profound words, right? Yes? Amazing, amazing story. And I can't wait to see what he's going to do with his life. It's going to be an amazing thing. I also want to add that the family has not allowed electronic devices so that there's more of the full use of the imagination in the home. So what can we learn from him? Well, again, he knows how to access different aspects of his self, right? And he has nurtured the inner chef. He's nurtured the inner pilot, whether it be of a ship, of an airplane, or a spaceship. And he has cultivated all of these sides of himself through imaginary play, which led, again, to synchronicities and meeting the right people. So think back when you were a child. What is it that you imagined over and over and over again? Was there anything? And if you did, or didn't, it's okay, but if you did, how has that helped to form who you are today? How has it helped to form your life? How did it serve you as you grew? Again, if you want to be somebody else, change your mind, right? The truth is you're already perfect. Caroline McHugh said that your only job while you're here on this planet is to be good at being you as you can. We come complete with one note that we're destined to sing. So each one of us has something that is amazing about us that we can do that nobody else can do, right? But we lose sight of what that is sometimes. We have cultural expectations, we seek to fit in, we have pressure from family or parents. And the truth is there are as many opinions of you as there are people. Have you ever gotten lost in someone else's opinion of you? Hello? It's like, forget about it. What was that book that Terry Cole Whitaker wrote years ago? Was What You Think of Me Is None of My Business, right? Right? So sometimes we get lost in either trying to please or just being aware of how other people are perceiving us. But the truth is, our job here on this planet is to be the best at being ourselves as we can be. So Caroline McHugh has developed something that she calls the I complex. And we all know there's different complexes. One is a superiority complex, where we believe that you believe you're the most important person in the room, right? Party doesn't start till I get there. The other is an inferiority complex, where, we just devalue ourselves. And the truth is that when we have a fragile ego, we either have delusions of grandeur or delusions of insignificance. Both of them are, symbolize kind of a fragile ego. But she's come up with a word that she calls an interiority complex. In other words, the inside of us is the who we are in our true Christed self. That expression is a healthy ego, if you will, because it goes beyond ego. It goes past that, right? And when we have, quote, a healthy ego, it's more fluid and we're able to use it in service to the world instead of either propping it up or tearing it down. Because we go through that process in the course of a day, do you not? Are there moments when you feel like, I can fly, I can do anything, I'm great, and then other days it's like, my cell phone is too heavy to pick up, I can't even move, I can't budge. And we just go back and forth, but it's like the weather, it's like clouds, it's like it just kind of comes and goes. So an example of being the best that we are was said by a performer. Her name is Jill Scott. And again, Caroline McHugh shared this story, but she's a singer, and she was about to go on stage right after some big name had just gone up there, you know. And so an interviewer was there and said, so how do you feel about going on stage and following, you know, this great person? And this is what she said. She said, have you ever seen me perform? I am Jill Scott. I am a poet and a singer, and I'm a lot of other things. We all have our own thing. That's the magic, and everybody comes with their own sense of strength and their own queendom. Mine could never compare to hers, and hers could never compare to mine. And that's a perfect example of that, right? It's like not feeling like, well, wait a minute, I'm just as good as she is, and I'm going to be better. Oh, my God, I'm just not so good. But rather, she's great. But you know what? I have my own abilities and gifts and talents, and I'm going to shine from that place. And she owned it. She owned it. And you need to own who you are and that individual expression that is coming through you as well. So there's times in our lives when we're called to change, right? Perhaps you get a job offer, or you move, or you start a relationship. There's like these crossroads in our lives where we have an opportunity to change. And a question that, and it's an opportunity during those times of change when we can ask big questions because we're in a place of strength and health, right? And the question that I would like to ask, and first for women and then for men, but for women, if you could be the woman of your dreams, who would you be? If you could be the woman of your dreams, who would you be? And for men, if you could be the man of your dreams, who would you be? If you could be the man of your dreams, who would you be? What tends to happen is we don't necessarily explore these big questions when we're in a place of strength, when we're in a place of health. Usually these questions get forced upon us when we're in a crisis, right? We have a health crisis, or we lose our job, or something happens, and then all of a sudden those questions come at us. But the truth is, in those times we may be weak and we may be vulnerable. Why not explore these like Tom does in his basement, playing all the different roles? Why not explore these while we're centered and while we're healthy and while we're strong? So as we move forward in this, I want to share with you a quote from Caroline McHugh. She said, there's two extremes of your ego, and one of them is about self-congratulation, and the other one is about self-castigation. Your challenge is to take the ego from its dominant position and pull it back so that it's in service to yourself. So using your ego in service to others. And again, some days you're going to feel like you're going to fly, and some days you may not be able to get out of bed. But if you want to be somebody else, change your mind. You have one note to sing that is uniquely yours. So cultivate the sides, all these myriad, multidimensional sides of yourself through the use of your imagination. Because there is the core of you, the self of you, the Christ of you, that was the same when you were 7, and it'll be the same when you're 107. There is that one unchanging self behind all the other aspects of ourselves. So may you go in your basement and create something amazing as you pour into your imagination, moving you into the imaginal realm and then into manifestation. And I'll be thinking of you from Transylvania.